Hello, everyone, and welcome to this webinar, Boundaries That Bring You Back to Life Again. I'm so thrilled that you're here today, taking this time for yourself to really tune in, inquire, and learn more about creating boundaries that give you life and nourishment. So I'd love to hear from a few of you just to make sure that you can hear me and that the chat box is working. So go ahead and say hello and also let us all know where you're from in the world so that we can start calling you into the circle here. Hi, Della in Summerland, Canada. Welcome. Saskia from Germany, beautiful. Teresa from Barcelona. Anna from the UK. Wow, we've already got a great representation of the world here. Jessica from Oakland, Catherine, Joyga from Turkey, Toronto, Boise, Texas, Seattle, San Francisco. Hello, beautiful women. Margaret, Stacy, Ronnie, Catherine, Wendy, Anim. Beautiful. I'm so glad that you're here. And can someone just give me a little thumbs up that the volume works well, that you can hear me good? Hi, Sonia from Canada. Wonderful. Okay, looks good. Great audio. Thank you, Della. Wonderful. So I'm going to give you just a little outline of what we'll be touching on today before we dive in. And I'll get started. So I'll share a little bit about who I am and what I do and why I'm here talking with you about boundaries. Then we will do a little bit of chat in the chat box where I'll be asking you about your struggles with boundaries, as well as what you think having healthy boundaries will bring to your life. Then I'll be sharing with you some of my definitions and understandings of what boundaries actually are, as well as what they're not. And then I will share with you 3 really simple but powerful tools to help you anchor into yourself so that you can create these healthy boundaries that bring you back to life again. And then at the end, we'll have a Q&A time where I can answer any questions or address anything that's coming up for you around this. All right, sounds good. We've got Hawaii, Germany again. Wonderful. Welcome, women. I'm so happy that you're here. So my name is Jasmine Patton, and I am a self-care mentor and an inner wisdom coach for women. My passion, my real deep passion, is supporting women to slow down, really listen to what's going on inside, honor and accept that, and then be able to express that out into the world. And that piece about expressing it into the world, I feel, is a real challenge for many of us. And it's also a really, really important piece. And that's what expressing and creating boundaries can do, is take what's going on inside and create that as an expression into the outer world. So I work with women through one-on-one coaching. I teach classes, online classes, and I'll tell you a little bit about the one I have coming up soon. And I'm also a mentor for her mystery school. So I know many of you are here from Jemana's Daily courses, or you're currently in the mystery school. So I'll tell you a little bit about the mystery school. It's a 9-month program that's online. It's an amazing, amazing, deep immersion into deep divine feminine principles and ways of being. It helps you to become a more embodied woman, present in herself, and able to really feel strong in the core of who you are. This is, I went through the program last year and coached Jemana as she was creating it. And now this year I'm going through it again and supporting women through mentorships as they go through the school. And it's just such a powerful and beautiful journey of unfolding into this deep feminine mystery that we exist in. So if you want to learn a little more about that, you can go to hermysteryschool.com, and there's a whole bunch of great information there. So my intention today is to really give you some tools and some understandings of boundaries that will support you to create them in a really graceful and effortless way once you've begun practicing what I'm sharing with you. The grace and the effortlessness will come more easily. And I'll tell you a little bit about my story and why I feel like boundaries are so important. I was laying in bed this morning really early thinking about what I was going to share with you, and it just struck me like, oh, this painful memory of all the years that I spent in relationships with men where I was not honoring my boundaries, where I was not declaring them, asking for them, and really I was just letting myself be swayed and brought into the flow of whatever it was that the man wanted as opposed to what I wanted. It was kind of intense. I'm sure a lot of you can relate to this feeling either in relationship or in work or with family, where you're just wanting to have things go easily, or maybe just wanting to experience some love and connection with someone. And that somehow allows us to set aside what is actually really important. So what happened for me was, I just pretty much ignored my deep needs and just surrendered my free will to what was going on in the relationship. And it wound up being really painful. So I found myself in a quote open relationship, even though at my core I'm actually really monogamous. I somehow allowed myself to let that be okay. And in that openness, there were no boundaries. And I remember asking, like, can we have some boundaries? And he said no. And I somehow went along with that. But the result of that was a lot of pain and a lot of trauma that I experienced from really just ignoring my own precious needs. I also came out of that relationship in particular with some debts, some financial responsibilities that I took on that weren't actually mine. So I had some real painful lessons around what happens when I don't hold my boundaries. And that has then spurred me to a real deep inquiry over these last 4 years of what do I need and what are my boundaries? What is important to me, and how do I create boundaries in a beautiful way, not like a hard, pushing away type of way, but a really embodied way that comes from my core. And it's been life-changing, absolutely life-changing. So now I feel like I'm very connected to my needs. I'm able to express them very easily, and I'm finding that I'm met with respect for those needs and honor for those needs from the people around me. At this point now, it's such a change from the past where I was just kind of flowing with whatever's going on. And now the people who know me really just say without me even asking, like, wow, you have really good boundaries. So it feels really amazing to have embodied that to a point where it feels in grace and in ease. So I hope to be able to impart some of that here to you today. So let's use the chat box here, and I would love to hear from you about what are you struggling with around boundaries? I know as women, we often struggle with boundaries. That's just kind of part of what comes with the territory. We tend to be overgiving and wanting to take care of other people before ourselves. So let's see what you have to say about that. What are your struggles with boundaries? I can't wait to hear from you. And in the meantime, it looks like we've got Simona from Prague and Sula from Cyprus, Nancy from Rhode Island, Carmen, Danielle, Gina from the States. Wonderful, welcome. Fearing the consequences of setting the boundaries. Struggling with boundaries with exes, knowing I shouldn't engage or spend time with people that aren't good for me, but still end up doing it. Struggling with feeling deserving to receive or ask for my needs to be met. Don't know how to set them gracefully in a relationship. Feeling neglected when I'm not with my new boyfriend. Willing to give love and light, yet keeping some for myself. Thank you for your shares, women. Keep them coming. This is wonderful. Struggling with them in romantic relationships and friendships. Feeling like I can trade my needs temporarily and bring someone around later, but it never works. Struggling with boundaries and intimacy. Sometimes when I speak my needs aloud and they are different from my partner's, it makes me feel like I'm nagging or trying to change them. Struggling with them around work and feeling authentic there, not knowing how to set them and being afraid, not knowing how to communicate it. Co-parenting with a toxic ex is difficult. Relationships, yeah, there's so much juiciness here. Thank you for sharing. How to remain strong, feeling balanced and setting them. The place where it can feel selfish, but knowing the need exists. Let's see. Yes, all of those which are said, not feeling respected as much as I respect them. Not exactly knowing how to be able to decide what my boundaries are. Yes, struggling with relationships again, internal and external boundaries. Struggling to stay connected to my own core when in the presence of others. It's painful to set boundaries and endure the loss. Yeah, more parenting. Thank you for sharing. This is all really deep and beautiful, what you're writing here. And so many women are sharing. I can't read them all, but we're getting a sense that it can be difficult to know what your needs are, how to express them, feeling afraid of expressing them or not quite sure, feeling sure about how to do that, feeling fear around the repercussions of what happens when you do express them, finding struggles in romantic relationships as well as parenting, staying connected with yourself in the presence of others. That's a really big one. That's a really important point, and we'll definitely be addressing that here. Feeling guilty for putting your needs ahead of others. That's a big one too. Sticking with them after you set them. And yeah. Wow, so much good stuff. So I feel like that really kind of encapsulates a lot of what we're struggling with here. And let's just honor that and recognize that we as women in this world today are challenged with boundaries. And that's okay. And we're not alone. Like, I don't know how many women are here, over 100 right now. And over 500 signed up. So that is a signal that this is something that we're all struggling with. So I just want to name that and honor that we are all struggling with this. And we will address some of the ways to create more ease with this. Yeah. So let me ask you this question then next. So what do you feel would be the benefits of actually having boundaries or healthy boundaries? So we've talked about the struggles. So let's talk about the benefits. If you can imagine into a time when you are feeling really centered in yourself and able to express and communicate them, what could this do for your life? Feel secure in my relationships, self-confidence, breathing perfectly, having more self-respect, feeling empowered, knowing if what I'm feeling is myself or the other, getting back in touch with my creative self, creating a balance and not feeling drained, strength, gratitude, and clarity. Being able to be met because I can meet others in my truth. Standing in my own power and a sense of self-worth, power and energy, honoring myself, feeling secure in myself and my needs, allowing more self-growth and right/good choices, feeling free and aligned with my highest purpose, grounded and calm, owning my truth and brilliance, self-worthiness. Self-worth is a big one, and energy and power, clarity, and knowing and loving myself, being in my body, being contained without being hard. My journey would be easier, more balanced, knowing self, and knowing when to say enough is enough. So can you feel that? Can you feel how powerful that is? So what we're getting is strength and energy, embodiment, power, clarity, standing in your truth, knowing what your needs are, feeling confident and connected to a higher purpose. That's amazing. Yes, I wish that for all of you and for all women really in this world. That is some really, really potent energy there that we're talking about. So let's take that feeling in and really just drink in how beautiful that is and how it's actually a lot closer than you think. And we'll get into how that can come to be. So I want to talk now about some definitions of what are boundaries. You know, there are different ways to look at this. There's one way to look at boundaries that says, okay, here's me and here's this wall, and this strong, unbreakable wall is going to keep everybody or everything that I don't want out. It's probably going to take some energy to maintain that wall or to make sure that it's not crumbling or breaking. And really that kind of perspective of hard, rigid boundaries does not serve us as feminine beings. So I want to take a different perspective on what boundaries are. And if some of you watched the video that Jemana shared introducing this webinar, she talked about how boundaries are alive and permeable and flexible and really current with what is actually going on inside of us. So that doesn't mean that they're just kind of floaty and someone can come in and push them over. What it means is that they're connected to you, to what's actually really going on and what's really true for you. So when we can make the boundaries feel alive and able to adapt to life, then that really connects more to how the feminine energy flows. And the one really important point I want to make is that boundaries are more about keeping yourself in a beautiful, nourishing, held container, and keeping yourself full in this container without leaking out, as opposed to keeping other people out and away. So there's a sense of turning towards yourself to create boundaries, as opposed to turning outwards and pushing away. I found a quote from Brené Brown that is really, really simple and profound. And she says, boundaries simply are what's okay and what's not okay. And I want to add to that piece, what's okay and what's not okay for you. Because what we're talking about is turning towards you and really figuring out what's going on there and then being able to come from the inside out as you create these boundaries. So I'm just curious if this is kind of a new perspective for anyone, or if this is something you've been thinking about. Let me know in the chat box. Desiring more conscious control of my energy field, what I allow in, and removing the energy leaks. Yes, absolutely. Let's see what anyone else might have to say about that. Yeah, thinking about it, but not sure how to do it. We'll definitely get to that, Ronnie, in our practices. Um, so something else I want to say about that is, so the way we treat ourselves is how we set the standard for others to treat us. So again, it's that turning towards the self and having things come out from there. Okay, we've got some comments here. Yeah, most of the time, the boundaries are viewed as a rigid wall that excludes, but it's helpful to think of turning towards self. Great. It feels like a much more positive no versus harsh or rigid. Absolutely. And really, it's like the feminine perspective as opposed to a masculine perspective. And there's nothing wrong with the masculine. It just tends to be, it can be hard or rigid or set. And from this feminine perspective, it's more responsive to what is going on in our lives. So it gives us more room to be the mysterious, multifaceted women that we are. Loving the idea of containing versus keeping out. Yeah. Still feeling the sense of guilt around setting them. Establishing boundaries means first I have to forgive and release that which I've carried with me. Yeah, I feel like that's a really important point, Heather. Thank you for bringing that up. So as we're entering this exploration into boundaries, there is a need for us to be compassionate with ourselves for the ways that we have not set boundaries in the past. Because the truth is, I mean, where did we get good modeling for this? You know, if we're lucky, maybe we had some parents or aunties around us who set good, healthy boundaries. But I will say that culturally, and in this world, there tends to be this focus on taking care of everyone else as opposed to ourselves. So it's really important to just have some love and compassion for ourselves as we're entering this new exploration, because it doesn't really do any good to beat ourselves up for not having done it in the past, especially if we weren't given good models for that. And so, you know, just in you being here and engaging in this conversation and sharing this time with me and the other women, you're stepping into a new possibility and a new paradigm. And that is worth celebrating. Yeah, we, as women, we have struggled with focusing on ourselves, being conditioned that it's selfish if we're actually taking care of ourselves. And I'll use this analogy, though I'm sure you've heard it 1,000 times, that if you're in an airplane and you need to grab the air mask, you have to put it on yourself first. And it's a little cliche, but it's very true that when our needs are taken care of, then we're better able to show up for other people. When we're full, we have a cup to pour from to give to other people. So as counter to the over culture that that is actually really how we can source all of our gifts and our giving and our expression in the world, is by filling ourselves up and taking care of our own needs. Yeah. So I want to share just kind of an analogy that might help understand this a little bit better. So say there are two houses sitting on a street next to each other, looking pretty much the same from the outside. And there's this one house that has a fence and a gate around it. And it looks a little bit difficult to come into. Yet when you go through that gate and enter the house, you see that it's actually vacant, that no one is there. There is no furniture, there's no people, there's no life force. And so what can happen when a house is vacant? A couple things. The plants can start growing in, like the ivy can start coming in through the windows, and maybe little creatures start finding ways to nest in there. And then squatters can come and live there if no one's actually there to tell them, hey, you can't come. So this vacant house with supposed strong walls or fences around it is actually empty, and there are squatters coming in. So that's one house. So then there's the other house right next to it, looking really similar. Yet this house doesn't actually have a fence or a gate around it. And as you walk in, you see that it's actually full of life. There are beautiful art on the walls and furniture and people and the sounds of laughter and joy just kind of like oozing out of the house. There's no random plants, there's no mice making nests, and there's definitely no squatters in there. So this house represents you, your body, your realm. And my point in sharing this is that if you are not inhabiting your realm, your house, your body, your being, then you're susceptible to other people, other energies actually coming in and taking up residency in there. And even though there's this, fence and gate around it, they're there, and you may not actually want them there. Whereas with the other house, if that is your body, your realm, and you're fully present in it, you're bringing your life force and your joy and your presence there, then there's no need to have a fence to keep the squatters or the plants or the little mice out, because just by being in that house present, taking full residency in there, it naturally just draws in the things that are good for you. And there's no need to keep things out. So what I want to really emphasize about this point is that how you be is the key. So how you be is the key, not how someone else is being, how you be. Yeah, so this is something that we touch on really deeply in the mystery school, is coming into residency in yourself and in your body. And what that means is really being present in yourself and really inhabiting the space that is you. And I find that as women inhabit that space, we really fill that out with our essence and with our energy, then the things that don't serve and don't work actually just naturally fall away and disappear and stop happening. And things that are actually more aligned with that start to show up and start to nourish and nurture that garden. So in a way, just inhabiting ourselves and being really present in our own space makes it so that these kind of rigid boundaries don't even have to be said because of the resonance. So when something is joyful, it will bring more joy. When something has an inherent self-respect, it naturally encourages self-respect from others. Conversely, if something or someone is not really honoring or respecting what's going on, that's going to be reflected in the outer world. So that's why it's so important to be really focusing on ourselves, our center, our resonancy, so that we can really inhabit this beautiful being that we are. And then naturally, everything around us will start coming into resonance with that. And whatever is not in resonance will fall away. So the darkness is attracted to light too. Yeah, that's true. But I'll share with you some of my own personal experience with this. So before I had even a clue about what boundaries were when I was younger, like I'm a very sensitive, empathic, kind, listening type of person, right? So, I mean, I can't even tell you how many children, older people, and kind of maybe mentally unstable people would just attract to me like moths to a flame. There was something about me that was not clear about my own boundaries and was just kind of a sponge to other people. And it was kind of intense, and I didn't really love it because it was, kind of energies that were wanting to take from me or take up my time or tell me their whole life story or share their, weird experience of the day or whatever that was. And as I became present in myself and really filling myself out and respecting what was going on inside, like that just naturally stopped happening. I didn't have to say, oh, no, please don't talk to me. It just, those people didn't show up in my world anymore. Yeah. So now I would like to share with you the 3 tools that can start to help you inhabit yourself and express some boundaries out into the world. So the first one is tend to your body. So I'm starting with this one because it's very simple, but it's very, very important. So there are 2 pieces in this. One is, are you hungry? Are you well fed? Are you tired? Are you well rested? Because if you are hungry, or if you're super tired or exhausted, it's just really hard to hold boundaries. I mean, at a very foundational level, when you're hungry, low blood sugar, things like that, or just, haven't slept much and feeling really off, it's just easy to be off your center and not actually present in your body. So as obvious as it sounds, this could be a real key piece to some of you who are listening. I know it was for me. I used to just really disregard my hunger or my need for sleep, especially in relationships, so that I would eat dinner really late, or I would only get 5 hours of sleep because that's what my partner was doing. And I was just off. I was not feeling strong. I was not feeling in my center, confident, anything like that. And then from there, it was a lot harder to express what I actually needed or even have very coherent thoughts, to be honest. So this first tool of tending to your body is really important. And it's also the first place where you can start to have a very foundational relationship with yourself in a respectful way. Like if you can respect your own needs to eat and sleep, then you are well on your way to having a greater respect for yourself and then having that ripple out into the world. Yeah, Dominique says she eats late all the time due to her partner's timetable. Yeah, I've done that. And in the end, it didn't work for me. And now that I'm actually eating when it works for my body, oh my gosh, I feel so much better. And then also what's happening is because I'm just saying, hey, these are the times that I need to eat, and this is the amount of sleep I need to get. And when I go to bed, then the whole rest of my world and the people in it can naturally organize around that to actually support it. And it's not hurting anyone for me to eat at 6:30 instead of 7:30 if it's important to me. And then they get to see the benefits that happen when I'm well fed and well rested. And it's good for everyone. So first tool, tend to your body, make sure that you are fed and rested. So the second tool is what I'm calling the filling practice. So this is something that I want to do right now as a practice with you all. Have a little sip of water first. Tending to my needs. So if you can, I would love for you to stand up. It's not going to work for me to stand up right now, but I've done this many times standing up, and I know that it's a good position to be in. And if you can't, you can just rest on your chair that you're sitting in. So before let's see, I think we'll just go into practice. So find your feet just underneath your hips so that they're about hip width apart. And bend your knees just slightly so that you have a nice rooted and flexible connection with the earth or whatever it is that you're standing on. Then place one hand on your heart and another hand on your belly. And let's just close eyes and take some deep, slow breaths. Just feeling your hand on your heart, hand on belly, feet on earth, and knees slightly bent. Deep breaths in and out. And two more. In and out. And last one, in and out. So allow yourself to feel your mind and the energy that is in your head, all the swirling and thinking that's going on there. And let that energy start to drop into the cradle of your heart. Just allowing that energy to naturally and easily rest down into your heart where your hand is. And take another deep breath in that place, welcoming the energy of your mind into your heart, allowing it to relax and rest. Now, allow this energy that is your mind and your heart to drop down even further, taking its time to settle into the space of your womb. Gently falling into the cradle of the space that is your womb. Mind resting in the heart, resting in the womb. This place in your womb is your center of power. It is your deep, deep knowing. It is your feminine, mysterious, amazing palace. So allow yourself to bring your full presence into your womb and feel this energy start to really fill. Allow your presence to fill your womb. Allow it to grow out to your skin and all the way out to about a foot around you in a nice cocoon. And feeling your feet on the earth, your knees bent, and your full presence in your womb. And just breathe some light into there, some beautiful golden light, and allow that light to grow in brightness. And really just revel in this presence in yourself, in your body, in your place of power. Take some more deep breaths in here. And really connect with the essence of you. The you that has precious needs that are valuable, that are worthy of respect. Needs that when met will make you feel more brilliant and will benefit all those around you. And allow an image to come to your awareness that will anchor in this energy for you. Be an image or a word or a feeling. So what is arising as I ask you, what is the image or word or feeling in this center place of you in your womb? And just imagine taking that into your hands so that you can look at it again later today, next week, next year. And this image, word, or feeling will remind you of this beautiful place of presence and power that is yours. So take another deep breath and offer gratitude to yourself for doing this practice, for showing up to be fully present in yourself. Now you can allow the energy of your heart and mind to rise back up slowly into their right places. You feel your feet on the ground, your knees slightly bent, hands on belly and heart, and breath moving your chest up and down. And take one last sweet breath and then open your eyes. So I feel really good after having done that. I would love to hear any shares from you from that experience of becoming more present in your body. Amazing, full of light, Mother Mary, soft love, full of light, very relaxed. Loving the womb grounding practice. Lighter and wholesome. A shining pearl I found, lovely. Beautiful. So thank you for going on that journey with me. Blissful, relaxing, nourishing, reverence for myself. The phrases cuddle was one and freedom to soar was another. Beautiful. So this place that we just touched in and this energy that we just created is a beautiful ground from which to connect to your needs and to create boundaries from. So remember we talked about how boundaries could be like these rigid, hard, difficult things to do when it's pushing from the outside. But now we're tapping into this place where it is relaxing and nourishing and clear and beautiful. So my question to you is, what if when you're thinking about boundaries, you connect to this place, that you come from this place? How would that be? Feeling that the idea of being full and present is fluid. It's not static, not to be achieved in one breath. It's continually nourishing, liberating, too fearful to try, honestly. Thank you for sharing that, honestly. I appreciate that. And that's okay. That's totally okay. It can be a big deal to become present in our bodies. So you will get a recording of this. And if you feel called to try it again at another time, then it's here for you. Yeah. Like an ever-changing tide. Being able to use that space as a guideline for how I should feel is a great idea. Absolutely. Yeah. So I'll just share with you a little story about how I was able to use this practice in my own life. So I was working with Jomana many years ago. We were doing womb circles where we would spend this time getting present in the womb, filling the space, really being with it. And I would take walks in the park here in Ashland, and I started to notice that every single time I crossed paths with another person, this happened. like I contracted, I withdrew, I got smaller, I got kind of scared, and I just wanted to turn away from them. I kind of figured that wasn't really working for me. So I started to do this practice while I was walking of, okay, here comes the person, noticing my impulse to shrink and contract, and instead feeling my feet on the earth, knees slightly bent, and presence in my room, and then filling the space. And I tell you what, that worked like a charm. I stopped feeling afraid of other people. I stopped feeling like other people were going to come, kind of into my space, and then I had to turn away from them. And instead got to really see that there were two options. There was the shrinking and getting smaller and hoping that maybe they didn't see me or they couldn't come get me or whatever that was, or this idea of filling the space with my energy, filling with me, and allowing that actually to be my protection. It's pretty fascinating, right? That it seems like turning away or getting smaller from a perceived threat, whether that threat is real or not, is the way to deal with it. But actually this idea of filling the space with your energy and what you actually want to have in your field is the way of protection, is the way of creating more of what you want. Yeah. So someone shared that their mind was very active and it was difficult to experience. And that's okay. That's totally normal. And that's part of the process. So like I said, if you're willing to try this again, it's here for you. So experiment with this. Experiment with what it's like to, instead of shrink and pull away, to actually fill your space and see what happens, what you're met with, what shifts in your world as you start to play with this. So again, thanks for joining me on that journey. So now I'll share with you the third tool, and it's really about saying no. And so I'm so passionate about using this word no and the power of it that I've created a whole 4-week class that you can learn more about on my website, and I'll share that with you later, that really supports you to go through learning how to understand what your needs are and how to express them, and all the different ways that you can use the word or the concept of no to create boundaries and to create more of what you want in the world. And it's called Say No Like a Pro. And I'll share that with you later. So I'm taking one of my scripts for saying no from that class to share with you today. So no generally is a tool that you can use for discernment, to kind of say, not this, but this. This is what I want. This is what I don't want. And I know that it can be really challenging to say no for all of the reasons that we talked about around boundaries. Yet it is a very amazing superpower that we have access to. So I'm calling this no, it's called the other option no. So let's say that someone asks you, hey, Jasmine, can you babysit my kid tomorrow all day? So my invitation to you first is to really take a pause and to turn towards yourself and ask the question, okay, she wants me to watch her kid all day tomorrow. Does that work for me? Does that work for me? That can be a huge shift right there, because a lot of times we're just kind of entrained to say, yes, I can do that. Yeah, you need me? Yes. Whatever it is. Yes, yes, yes. And what happens when you actually turn towards yourself and say, does this work for me? How does this feel? How would this feel if I actually did this? So let's say that I turn towards myself and I go, well, this sort of works for me. Like, it actually doesn't work for me to watch the kid all day, but it would work for me to watch her from 2 to 5. So the other option, no, the script goes like this. Basically, it says, this doesn't work for me, but this does. So my friend would ask me the question, I turn towards myself and I figure out what actually works for me. And I turn to her and I say, hey, I'd love to watch your kid tomorrow. All day doesn't work for me, but from 2 to 5 does. How does that work? So this other option, no, can be used in so many situations. And the deep purpose of it is to invite you to turn towards yourself and to inquire, does this work for me? If the answer is no, of course, you can just say, no, I can't actually watch your kid tomorrow. But if the answer is, it sort of works for me, but it would work for me better if it looked like this. So this is one really powerful way to start exercising, expressing what your boundaries are. And what I love about it is that it still allows you to help other people and to serve other people, but really in the context of what works for you and how can you actually best show up to do that service for someone else. So the other option, no, this works, but this doesn't. So we've got our 3 tools: tending to your body, the filling practice, and the other option, no. So I'm going to type in the chat box right here where you can find more about the class. It is a 4-week class and it's in a small group of women, and it's in either Wednesdays or Saturdays in April. And I would love to have you along if you'd like. The women who've gone through it already have experienced some really beautiful, powerful changes in their life around feeling confident, not feeling guilty anymore, being more connected to their own needs, and really being able to gracefully express what they need in the world. So there we have it. So now in our last little bit of time together, I would love to open it up for any questions you might have. Just type them in the chat box and let me know how I can support you with boundaries and anything that might have come up today. And again, I'm so grateful that you're here and that you took the time to focus on yourself and this really, really important topic and exploration of boundaries. Yes, Dominique, there will be a recording of this. Absolutely. So just keep your eyes peeled for that. You're welcome, Sally. Thank you. Thank you, Dominique. Thank you, Della. Any questions? Any more comments? Yes, you're welcome, Heather. I'm so glad to take the time to share this with you. I mean, I feel like this is like a fire of passion in me that if we as women can stand in our center and speak our needs, that everything will be better. Everyone around us will benefit. It's really, really important. And we need to gather with each other and to learn with each other so that we can figure out how to actually do that. Yay. Thanks, Donna. I'm glad you're here. Thank you, Michelle and Wendy. Glad it was helpful. Thank you, Yvonne. Yeah, Alicia, you can catch the recording. Well, there's a lot coming in, so let me try and get these. Kim's asking if there's a better tool to use for men. And, you know, I'm guessing that there is, but I'll be honest and say that I am passionately focused on women because I feel like we have a lot of struggle around this. Yeah. Yes, Raven, my Say No class definitely covers the guilt that can follow when you say no. And it really addresses the root of it in the sense that when we can honor ourselves, then it naturally falls away. Looks like the video feed might be interrupted. Anyone's having, yeah. Can you still hear me though? Let me know if you can still hear. Yes, okay, good. Technical glitches happen. Let's see. Is there a way to measure your level